The world will never be the same once you see it through the eyes of Fareway Frank.
Frank, we'll sell London broils, New York strip steaks, pork chops, pork steaks.
Frank's mama always said, life is like a T-bone steak. When you shop at Fareway, you know exactly what you're gonna get.
Chris Williams, Chris Hassel. Two guys named Chris. Presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Iowa Everywhere.
Channel Seed. Seedsmanship at work.
And here we go on Two Guys. Chris Hassel. Chris Williams will be joining us in just a second. Matty Van Winks is here as well. What a weekend it was. So many different things happening on different fronts. The headlines, Van Winks, Iowa State men to the Sweet 16. Darren DeVries leaving Drake for the Big 12 and West Virginia. It's Two Guys named Chris, presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery. You were in Omaha, weren't you, Van Winks?
I was in Omaha
Sweet
for a
16
day.
Game?
Yeah, we were both in Omaha at the same time. We never crossed paths, but yeah, I was there. We made the trek over. We left early, Saturday morning, and made a few small town Iowa pit stops on the way, and watched the Sweet 16. The Cyclones get to the Sweet 16. It was a pretty good day, all things considered, man. How was your weekend in Omaha?
I had a great time at my buddy Dave Zavolinsky's house. He had some friends over, and he's got an incredible setup at his house. He honestly had 6 different TVs set up on one wall in his basement in front of the couches.
Nice.
3 of them were always on games. The other 3 were like showing. It was like a live standings update on our pool. That cool. He had like 45 guys in his pool.
Yeah.
And so it had live updates, and you could see who was in first place. You could see how things were trending in the games. It was pretty damn cool. Chris Williams, welcome to the program. I know it's been a super, super long week for you in Omaha and now back home before a trip to Boston.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Land of the free. Boston's kind of like where it all started, right?
It might be where it all ends for Iowa State. From what I've heard, fan-wise, this is exactly what we were really worried about when this bracket came out. I know we didn't want to look too far ahead, Williams.
Yeah.
But and they still have Illinois to play. But not only is it going to be all UConn fans, but it just doesn't sound like there will be many Iowa State fans there. I ran into some on my flights, and they just they're burnt out. In Kansas City for a whole weekend, and then Omaha for a whole weekend. Even people that wanted to travel, they can't do it. And Van Winks was saying they were going to do a charter, and there's not enough tickets for that because the tickets are so damn expensive because UConn.
Oh, yeah. The part of it was like the tickets weren't even part of the package, but it was just that
really
the flights are so expensive. And I think part of it too is, think about this. A lot of the diehards went to the women's tournament the week before in Kansas City. A lot of them went back down the next weekend and for the men's and watched, the run to the championship game. And with Omaha being a stone's throw away, a lot of them did all 3. So it's a lot. And if you're realistically looking down the road, Phoenix is within, you're within 2 games. So
my guess is that that's what most people will do. Even like the hotel situation, like we get a media rate and it's pretty respectable. But I was comparing, how that is, Hassel, where you're always trying to find some place a little cheaper. And like our media rate is like $279 a night, which is pretty expensive, all things considered. And like the cheapest one around us, to not having to be doing like, crazy Ubers every day was like $400, $500 a night even. So it's like, it's an expensive place to go. And Unfortunately, the Northeast is like where Iowa State really doesn't have many alumni either. Like, there's really places all over the country where we Iowa Staters don't really move to the Northeast. It's like a foreign country to us out there. Listen, what a weekend though. Omaha was awesome. Like, the crowds were just.
How did it compare to the Big 12 tournament? We asked going in. And you didn't think that there would be as many Iowa State fans in Omaha as Kansas City. Man, that arena looked incredible, especially for the Sweet 16 game against Washington State.
It was like a different type of crowd. Like, you had some of the same people, but we did an event on Wednesday night. We had an event on a Wednesday night at 5 o'clock. Okay, so this is over 24 hours before the first game. Most fans weren't in town yet. And we had over like 200 people there who were like Iowa State people who lived in Nebraska, Western Iowa, and they just drove that way for the event. So I think a lot of these people who, they took advantage of them being in that spot. And it was electric. I thought the crowd Thursday night before the game was as impressive of a neutral court that I have ever seen. Like, just the pregame atmosphere. I've seen better crowds in Kansas City, but it was that place was on fire before the South Dakota State game, and it was too for the second game. The second game, there were more Iowa State fans there,
and it probably felt like it too because during the South Dakota State game, you get off to that hot start.
Yeah,
in this game, it was like a total dud to start, and it just took a little time for that. Once like Taman had that and one, and that it got really loud in there. In the second half, really, it was a whole different story. It was a completely different script than the first and a lot louder in there. And you can see the picture in here that I took. It was, 90% Iowa State fans. That little chunk in the kind of the upper right corner there, that was Washington State. They were pretty loud. They were a rowdy group and they were fun. I mean, they were a good crowd too, but man, Iowa State just being 2 hours away made the difference.
Talked about this last night with Bloom. The one takeaway I have is that the Duquesne fans are dicks.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going to root against Duquesne the rest of my life.
Interesting.
Just a bunch of assholes.
Who would have thought that?
I don't know. I wouldn't have either, Chris, but those Duquesne fans are dicks.
I've done a couple Duquesne games. I did a Duquesne versus Pittsburgh game that they played in the Penguins arena. And it was, because they're both in Pittsburgh. And I didn't have any interactions with the fans, but I don't know how they won that first game, but they did not belong against Illinois. Holy smokes! I cannot wait for this matchup between Iowa State and Illinois. It's
getting a lot of love, man. I've had a lot of Big Ten fans who, live in Iowa tell me that they think it's like this perfect matchup. I mean, you would know. You watch more Big Ten than I do, but like. It's really like what's fascinating about it is like it's elite offense versus elite defense, and who's going to come out on top. I think, I think the way the game is officiated will have a huge say in it. Iowa State better hope that it's not a crew like Houston got last night, right? And they were really lucky to get out of that one alive. They had 4 guys fouled out. They had a walk-on out there on top of all their injuries, so they were super lucky. And then what a crazy day, like just an elite sports night last night. I thought Iowa State's women's team, God, almost pulled off the upset at number 4 Stanford. They lost
that game.
Overtime.
That was one of the best games we'll see all March.
Dude, I did the math. There were like 37 points scored in a 5-minute overtime between those two teams.
Jeez.
They didn't miss. It was unreal. Emily Ryan had one of the great games in Iowa State history, and they just didn't have enough. Like, Audie Crooks fouled out, and it was over because Iowa State doesn't really have a backup post threat, really. I mean, Nellie's a defender, but that's about it. It was a big drop-off. So we had that. We had the men's tournament going on as well. We had a phenomenal game between Baylor and Virginia Tech on the women's side. And then in the background, we have Darian DeVries leaving for West Virginia, and this is all happening basically at the same time. And so what's interesting about that is I would have thought that he was going to go to Michigan on like Tuesday. Is kind of what it felt like, and then your boy Dusty May. But I thought he was getting Ohio State, and then Ohio State decides to, bring in the guy from within. I don't know, the DeVries. It's a really interesting choice by Darren, because one of those deals, Chris, where it reminds me if he would have gone to Washington, really, because it's like, yeah, you get in this league, but you're moving to like an entirely different world.
Oh, it is a different world, baby.
It's similar to Seattle. Like Seattle, you're going out there and everything is just very hippie, and it's just and now you're going to literally like the backwoods of the United States of America. The good thing is that's a passionate fan base that really cares.
Extremely passionate fan base. Extremely passionate. But you get into the Big 12, you bring Tucker, clearly. And I'm really interested to see how Tucker does in the Big 12. I think Darren's a really, really, really good coach. I was hoping that he would stay at Drake long enough for the Iowa job to open. I think a lot of Iowa fans were hoping for that too. Whether it's next year or 2 years down the road, just seems like I feel like he would want it and Iowa fans would want it, and he's proven. Look, he's getting some hate right now on social media because that's back-to-back years they've blown late leads in the tournament. But come on, this is Drake. He got Drake in the tournament, 3 straight years? He won a game a couple years ago. He was in position to beat a team that went to the Final Four last year. And this year, man, you make some damn free throws.
More importantly, DeVries got Drake to the point where people are going to their games.
Yeah.
Like that.
This is Drake. This is not, Drake has been one of the worst programs in college basketball for the last 50 years. They had the one great breakout season with Keno Davis in 2008, and that's it. And Mark Phelps couldn't get anything going there. And then the next guy that came in, Jack Coletti.
Oh, God.
Jack Coletti. And then Darian DeVries comes in, and all of a sudden they're just a perennial power in the Valley. And, yeah, his son has a lot to do with it.
Speaking of that, I started to hear rumblings. I'm sourced in the Omaha scene. There were a lot of Creighton people that were thinking if Darren didn't make a move, that potentially because of NBA draft reasons, that Tucker could potentially end up there playing for his dad's good friend Greg McDermott next year.
Man, that would be really interesting too.
There were a lot of Creighton people, and again, I was kidding when I said I'm sourced in. I was being self-deprecating. A lot of Creighton people that was going around there, is all I'm saying. That they thought that Tucker needed to, the reason would have been not that he wasn't happy with Drake or didn't want to play for his dad, but he needed to play at a higher league to get, to show his potential for the NBA. So he'll do that now, and they got a hell of a rebuilding job, after the whole Huggins situation. But the thing is, it's like you look at it, and this is why I get so frustrated with Fran McCaffrey, because these rebuilds don't have to take long. They could very well be in the NCAA tournament at West Virginia next year. I mean, we'll get into Otzelberger here, but I mean, shit, they were 0-19 and they went to a Sweet 16 the next year. So you don't, these rebuilding thing, I'm telling you, if you're in the portal and doing all that stuff.
It's different these days. It's totally different. What do you think about Iowa fans thinking that DeVries is just going to kind of use this as a stepping stone to Iowa, and that Iowa can have him whenever they want? I don't necessarily believe that.
I think it's interesting.
I want to see Iowa that much better of a job than West Virginia? If he goes over there and kind of gets things going, I don't know that it's going to be super easy for Iowa to try to get him back when the time comes.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that. It would help if Iowa had better attendance. It would help it. Like we're told there's no NIL support for Iowa basketball. Now I would blame the coach for that.
And that's going to be totally different at West Virginia. They're going to have, I guarantee you, they'll have more support at West Virginia for NIL than Iowa does in basketball.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. And a lot will be, it's like, man, maybe he moves there and loves it. You know, it's possible. I don't know.
It's possible. I don't know. Yeah.
I do think
if he gets things rolling, like, because I think there's two ways this could go where he doesn't end up back at Iowa. He gets things rolling, and all of a sudden, either he wants to stay there or he has an opportunity to get even a bigger job. Two, doesn't quite work out. Maybe
he's at West Virginia.
It's not a good fit.
Well, and then you just hire him if you're Iowa, like, because you know he's a fit in the Midwest. I don't know. The whole thing too. It feels weird to me. Like I thought when Darren left, it would be for Michigan, Iowa. I had heard this weekend Oklahoma State was part of that conversation.
Well, here's the other thing that he's going to be taking over for Greg McDermott when he's done at Creighton, don't you think?
Boy, you'd think so.
Like that's the job. I think his end game,
and
job,
that's a better job than Iowa.
Yes,
that's a better basketball job than Iowa.
Dude,
walking around downtown Omaha, I'm talking the downtown area, the Creighton feel is incredible. Now I know it's basketball, but Nebraska was in the NCAA tournament too. You know, like it's not, but it's just Creighton stuff everywhere, and it doesn't surprise me.
They
I grew
sell
up
out every game. I mean, it's like they're almost like an NBA team.
They are, and that's an NBA arena.
Mm-hmm.
And you step outside of it, and it really is like a little mini power and light district thing they have going on over there. And their fan base, it's like all these young lawyers and doctors who are making six figures, and they go there to socialize.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like they're building this booster. They just build these boosters and they don't have any football to give to.
Don't have to worry about football. It all goes to men's basketball.
So that's a really good job. I mean, Greg just signed his extension, but yeah, I do. That's a great point by you. Like, I don't think it.
Yeah, what does Greg have left? He probably what does he coach 5 more years?
Maybe,
I don't think he's a guy that wants to coach into his late 60s and 70s.
I'm actually surprised he's still coaching. I kind of thought that he would go and just play golf and watch Doug in the NBA, but no, I mean,
but again, they were knocking on the door of the Final Four last year, and this year, I mean, they'll have some tough games coming up. They've got Tennessee in the Sweet 16, and then either Purdue or Gonzaga. But Creighton's good.
They're really good. Their guards are a blast. 2 guys here on Iowa Everywhere. We are presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery. Live in the Channel Seed studios. Would like to give a shout out to our friends at the Iowa Event Center. Did you see Tim McGraw was wearing the TJ Otzelberger tight fitting Caitlin
So I haven't
Clark
seen
jersey?
this. Van Winks, can you try to pull that up? Because I saw Fales in Omaha, and he was talking about it.
Oh, it's like one of those old those tank tops Eminem would wear. That's just skin tight. Look at
so
this.
was he? Oh my God!
That's a
wow, and
good-looking man right there.
He's got it tucked in his huge belt buckle.
That's a good-looking man.
So Fales was making fun of it, but I don't know.
Fales has terrible fashion sense. I'm telling you. I don't think I've met a human that has a worse fashion sense than Andy Fales.
Wow.
Keith Murphy's right there. That's a great look. I wish I looked like that.
I mean,
me?
Well, I will say this: how did the Iowa State fans in the audience feel about that?
Oh, I'm sure they booed the shit out of him. I hope they did.
I'm not kidding. In Omaha, I met the first Iowa fan that can't stand Caitlin Clark.
Whoa, really?
This person does exist. This is a
That's crazy.
I'm not going to say I had never met this person before, but really nice guy. He is involved in women's athletics. Huge Iowa fan. He just can't stand the way her attitude on the court.
Dude,
Because I watched the game with him, and boy, that was. And she was yelling at the refs.
Gets the 16 seed.
Headbutting the ball, and her dad's telling her to shut the hell up.
That was my favorite moment of the season. As a dad, oh my God. My girl's 9. But they'll do things and just in general, Matt, you'll know what I'm talking about. Just in general, and you just want to tell your daughter, shut up.
I think you went,
I
stop,
just loved
stop.
it. I loved it. I thought it was just such a, because she's been built up into this like iconic stature, and then we flash the pan over to Dad, and he's just like, "Stop it, knock it off." I thought it was so cool, just so genuine,
just so damn competitive. Like from the Wright Thompson piece, the people who spent an hour reading it,
I've only got half of it done. I haven't
learned
been
a lot
able to.
more about what makes her go, but it's just like they're up 20 against the 16 seed Holy Cross. And it looks like Iowa's getting their ass kicked.
If you read these stories, though, these books about like these dream team pickup games with Michael Jordan just making Christian Laettner cry, basically, like these hyper like Tigers that way. Tiger, you read this book, the Hank Haney book.
Yes.
It's one of the great sports books I've ever read. And Hank Haney will be like, yeah, like I was on Tiger's payroll. I was his swing coach for the best player in the history of golf. I was with him every day, and he paid me like $30,000 a year.
Jeez.
Because Tiger would be like, well, you're lucky to be my swing coach. You're going to make a lot of money on that. Like, they're so different. They're wired so differently. And Caitlin's in that. She's in that. Dale Earnhardt was like that in my sport. Nobody understood him because most 99.999% of humans can't even comprehend what it's like to be that competitive.
Well, tonight, Iowa is a 16.5-point favorite against West Virginia. That is 7 o'clock Central Time. It's on ESPN. ESPN has a huge night of women's basketball. Usually, in years past, like before, if you're not into the women's game, you hit Monday and it's like, oh God, there's nothing going on. Tonight is like Paige Beckers is playing at 6
So
for
good.
UConn. Caitlin Clark's at 8. Juju Watkins. I'm sorry, I'm giving Eastern times. Juju Watkins is playing for USC 10 Eastern, 9 Central. Back to back.
When's LSU play again? Did they play yesterday?
The LSU women?
Yeah.
Yes. You did. Oh my God. There was a lot of drama in that.
Well,
game, too.
I've been watching this whole Kim Mulkey versus the Washington Post thing.
So the game was she benched Haley Van Lith going into the second half, and they were down by like 7 in the third quarter.
I knew they were down in their first game because I was watching that.
Yeah, they were kind of up against it, and then third quarter they caught up, and then they totally turned it on in the fourth quarter.
So we're gonna. I mean, if Iowa wins tonight, we're gonna get the game.
Oh God, I hope so. But who's LSU playing in the Sweet 16?
They got UCLA.
Oh God, I don't know if
We
they can
have
get
to
past
get the
UCLA.
game. We
I know,
have to get
I
the
know.
game.
And I wonder when that game would be. I would guess it would be next Monday.
I dare you to push a girl like Angel Reese. This Mulkey. I know she's annoying. And I think she's a terrible person. I don't know her. She just comes across as like a bad human. I don't know her. I'm just saying I'm watching her press conferences and it's like, man, I would not want to be in that lady's way.
What is going to be coming out about her?
I don't know.
What is this article about? We don't know that yet, huh?
No. So, I mean, what I read is like that they've been digging up former players to like say bad things about her.
Yeah. That's what I figured.
Yeah.
But It's almost the way she's reacting. It almost seems like even more of a bombshell, but maybe not.
There's all sorts of jokes out there. Like Kim Mulkey was behind the January 6th attack on the Capitol, and like it just like. But like, let's read it. It's the Washington Post, though. It's not like this is Cyclone Fanatic coming up with this stuff. You know, like this is like a real like they have levels and level. This is like the second biggest investigative outlet in the United States of America. Them and the New York Times, right? Like it's like whatever it is, I'm sure is well vetted. You know how this stuff works. They're not gonna come out with a story on Kim Mulkey in the middle of the NCAA tournament if it's all false. Like all this stuff's.
She grabbed somebody's face in the handshake line. Like she grabbed her face, smushed her cheeks, and like talked right to her face. I think you played just such a great game. You keep your head up, gal. You keep it up.
My favorite was before the Iowa game last year, and she didn't know Gabby Marshall's name, and she's like, "That one with the pretty eyes."
Oh yeah,
yeah, that girl with the pretty eyes.
The meme of her grabbing that girl's face. She was like, "Did you talk to the Washington Post?"
God, Mulkey. Every time she talks, she makes every situation worse.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, oh, this might be bad. Oh, now I'm going to go out there and talk for 45 minutes about how I'm going to sue him. Like, come on. Like, who's advising this woman? She is not taking advice from anybody. God, the Iowa State women's game, I want to touch on this, and then we're going to circle back to talk Sweet 16 again. I also want to talk Kaden Proctor, touch on something. And we got to do our bigger, better, bolder. You can say no, Chris, because the game would have gotten over at like 1:30 in the morning your time. Or did you stay up for this game?
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. I flew back from Omaha, got back at about 10 Eastern. So I got home right after the game started. And I had like the triple box going with the two men's games and then the Iowa State women. And I also had on my phone, I had the Iowa men NIT game on my phone.
Oh, shit, I forgot about that. Yeah, I watched that. That was not a game.
That was terrible.
It really didn't look like Iowa wanted to be there for the first 15 minutes. And then they woke up and played a pretty competitive game after that. But the defense was a different level of bad, I thought.
Yes. And I didn't really focus into any one particular game until we got into like the fourth quarter of the Iowa State women's game. I think that's right after the Houston game finally ended. And God, the back and forth. But I was just really surprised at how, like, I knew Stanford was taller. I knew they had more size than Iowa State. But I just couldn't believe how they couldn't get anything done inside.
I know. It was
like,
crazy.
Brink would just like, usually, you're taught you got to go straight up with your arms. Straight up. She was going over, and Audie Crooks, like, she could hardly get a shot up. And when she did it, they just wouldn't go in.
Brink made Caitlin Clark look polite.
Yes, she did.
Out on the court.
I don't know what she said when she was running off the court, but it certainly looked like she said. I can't imagine that it looked like she said "F you," but I can't imagine she did, because if she did, how did she not get teed up?
I was gonna say maybe the most spineless group of officials I've ever.
There's no way if she did that.
Dude, she was fouled out of the game for like 5 minutes, and during a timeout, she ran up to the center of the court and harassed the ref.
I know. And then it seemed like she said the same thing again.
And then there was the one moment where her coach like ran out onto the floor.
Yeah, what was that all about? Was she yelling at her player because she was celebrating too much or what?
I don't know. She was pissed.
She was out on the free throw line.
It was wild.
And that was her last moment on the court as a
yelling F off to the refs.
So they're not going to give her a T.
Come on, you can't say. If you say that to an official, I think you get thrown out of the game. Yeah. Not just one T.
So I said, like, they didn't do anything, though. Like, they didn't call any fouls, like, except on her and Audie Crooks. But you had coaches running on the court. You had players telling you to F off. Like, it was just wild. It was crazy. It was a crazy atmosphere. Because then, like, the core group of Iowa State fans that were there were nuts early, and then the Stanford crowd woke up, and then Emily Ryan can't miss. She goes 6 of 9 from 3.
She was so good. She is just an assassin.
Hey, I'm telling you, this could be a preseason top 10 next year. I think that they are. I really do.
Who did they lose? Well, given
Really?
if
They
they
lose
keep
Bellinger.
everybody out of the portal,
Yes, that's the big key. But they lose Bellinger. But they have the transfer from LSU sitting out, who I think will just jump right into that role. And then they've got a really good recruiting class coming in, and you go and see. I would guess that they're going to try and go portal shopping and just add pieces. I would hope.
it's kind of what we hoped Iowa would do, and it didn't really happen for the Iowa women.
But this has really been an incredible run by the Iowa State women. Nobody thought that they would even be. We kind of thought like best case scenario for them would be like the NIT, and they get to the round of 32, and they damn near. They were 13.5-point underdogs last night, and almost pulled that off. So good season there. Let's do our Kelderman Manufacturing Bigger, Better, Bolder, and roll us into the
Bigger, better, bolder. Powered by Kelderman Manufacturing.
shout out to Jeff Kelderman. He texted me last night during the game, and my 4-year-old's still up with me at 11:30 watching this game, and proud of Elise. She was intently into this one. Like, she old sketch thing on her iPad, but she was watching the game and cheering on the Cyclones.
But your older daughter put herself to bed?
Put herself to bed. And she's the one who cares the most, but she's so responsible. She's like, Dad, it's just too late. I'll just watch it tomorrow. Can you make sure and record it for me? And she goes, I gotta be ready for school in the morning. I gotta be able to wake up.
Well, we're kind of gonna get the same thing with the men on Thursday. I mean, that game.
Oh my God,
that game won't start till 9:30 Central.
Yeah, no, you're looking at Rob Gray and I were texting about this last night. Like, that game's gonna get over at like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning on the Eastern time zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, look, that's gonna be that's a sexy game. So they're putting it in that spot.
Is that what's going on with that? Because I was wondering. I kind of thought that would be the first one, but you get better ratings the later it goes. Is the mindset there?
Yeah, you get more West Coast people. Like the first game in the East, although I mean the first game is UConn, San Diego State.
Hey, maybe that'll be good for the crowd. The crowd will thin out a little bit.
Maybe. Well, is that good? I mean,
who would UConn root for?
That's what I'm wondering too. Who would UConn fans be? Who would they rather see?
Well, everybody, all the like talking heads are picking Illinois, whatever that means.
God, it's going to be fascinating. When I was in Omaha, and we were trying to figure that out for what game was that? What was the game after the Iowa State game? Because Iowa State played first, and then there was a game after that.
Duquesne and Illinois.
Yes, so it was Duquesne and Illinois. And
hate them.
We were trying to figure out with fans that would stay. One of the guys that was with us was like, "Well, Iowa State fans, they'll drive back tonight. I mean, they'll drive back to Ames." What? Are you kidding?
No, they're all too
Iowa
drunk.
State fans aren't driving back. They're all drunk.
Yeah, other than Ben Winkle.
They're either going to stay at the game and keep drinking, or they're going to go to the nearest bar and keep drinking. They're not going to leave.
Well, I think we brought our baby. Was I the only one with a baby there? I think I was. I think we
brought a baby to the stadium?
Yeah, we brought the baby to the game.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, the baby now has severe hearing problems for the rest of its life.
She's 1-0 watching the Cyclones.
It's a good first game to go to.
No kidding. Jeez.
It's a good first game to go to.
There's 25-year-old Iowa fans who haven't even seen a Sweet 16.
I went and met Van Winkle before the game just to say hi on my way in, and we met at the Hilton, which was the team hotel directly across the street from the arena. And that crowd in there, those people were not driving home. Like, there's no, like, it was, Matt, like,
Yeah.
you can follow it up. It was crazy. Like, you had, like, Cyclone Jim Carrey walking around taking pictures with everybody.
That was unbelievable.
He's a mini
They must have
celebrity.
showed him
Crazy.
10 times on the, and everybody was trying to figure out at first. They're like, "What was it? Who's he with? Dan Marino? What? Oh, it's Finkel and Einhorn or whatever it is. Ray Finkel and whatever Jim Carrey's name in the thing was."
All right, let's do our bigger, better, bolder. I'll go on from the Iowa State game and then pass it off to you guys.
Right.
I just wanted to give credit to Taman Lipsey. I said to him I interviewed him after the game, and the look that I got like from him told me so much. I asked him, I said, "Where did you get the step back threes from? Like, where the hell did that come from?" And he laughed. He's like, "Well, I figured out I could do it last week in Kansas City." But I made the point to him. I said, like, Taman, like, can you walk me through where you were at a year ago and how you got here? Do you remember that game in Greensboro?
Oh,
Like,
my
nobody
God.
even guarded him. They were daring him to shoot. And when he did, like, he barely hit the rim. He has come so far. Is it to the point where he could be like a dark horse NBA guy? If he has another offseason, like, I'm serious. Like, I'm not, because he defends enough. His athletic skills are off the charts. He could be like a, mid-second round pick who floats around the G League and gets a couple of contracts. He's not going to be more than that. But that guy has spent so many hours in the gym working on his shot. They didn't guard him a year ago. It was like, oh, sag off, and it's 5-on-4 the rest of the way because you knew Lipsey couldn't make a shot.
Sure.
And he hit those step-back threes in the second half that really are what separated Iowa State from Washington State and allowed the Cyclones to cruise to a double-digit win. So we've talked about him a lot. He's a first-team All-Big 12 guy. He gets a lot of credit. But it didn't just happen, is my point. When I make the point that Momcilovic is this guy who he is a natural lottery pick, he'll have to screw something up to not be that after next season because he's so talented. And you just watch it.
I'm just laughing because Robert chimes in on YouTube. Here we go again, the Iowa State show. Would you please shut the hell up?
Don't worry, the NIT breakdown's coming up at 10 o'clock.
Williams, there is news that just broke that I know you knew about but hadn't said anything yet, but it is out there now that Iowa State is getting Deshaun Jackson from Charlotte. That's being reported by On3 Sports, and it's in the comments. So 6'11", and I know you know a lot about that guy.
I do. Had a feeling this was coming. I just started to learn about him. So he sat out not last season, but the season before due to health problems. I don't know what the health problems were. Started at Washington State.
Yeah, coincidentally started at Washington State.
Yeah. And then he had actually committed to Texas Tech last year. And there were, I think, issues with the health thing. Goes to Charlotte for a year. Had a really good year. And, yeah, he'll be one of the guys. I mean, they'll go after some more. But big, athletic, can run the floor, block shots. He is a pretty good free throw shooter. He's like a 75% free throw shooter on top of it. So there you go. That's the first step in replacing Robert Jones and Hassan Ward. Go over to who did he pick Iowa State over, Matt? According to
Xavier,
On3?
Indiana, Miami, and USC.
Yeah. So you're beating out good schools there. This is a guy who other people want, which is always the most important
This
thing.
is so weird. The Iowa State just punched their ticket to the Sweet 16, and this stuff is happening.
And they got a huge commitment over the weekend in a prep kid out of Wisconsin, another big Xavier Mitchell. So they had a really good weekend. And you go to the Sweet 16, and in the last 2 weeks, they've gotten 2 prep recruits, and now this kid, the transfer. So,
Ben Winks, who's your triple B?
I mean, she didn't have a great game yesterday, obviously, but I mean, they missed her when she fouled out. But Audie Crooks, man, it was cool to see her kind of have that coming out party in front of a national stage. A lot of people were tweeting about her, posting about her. Great, just a great performance on Friday against Maryland. 40 points. When do you ever see that? There were some funny people like, oh well, somebody from Iowa scored 40 points, and it wasn't Caitlin Clark. So. It was really cool, man. I mean, she is just so much fun. And, I was watching Connor Ferguson did an interview with her after the game yesterday, and she's still just all smiles and just can see the future of this program and where it's headed. And, man, yeah, it was just really cool to see her have a really great game and lead that huge comeback. I mean, the second biggest comeback in NCAA women's history. We really haven't even touched on that. Just she led the way, man. And obviously it was tough for her yesterday with those two bigs for Stanford. She just really couldn't get anything. She didn't really have that touch, but she's just going to keep getting better, man. And it was really cool to see.
And her opponents like her. I was watching SportsCenter after that game, and about 20 minutes in, they played an interview with, I think it was the Stanford player who scored like 30-some points. And they asked her about Audie, and she said, "Oh, she's just a gentle giant. Like she's so good, but she's so nice."
It was funny. The handshake line. I think Brink came up to Audie and she said, "You're so good." You could read her lips.
That's great.
Good. So pretty cool.
I'm gonna go with just Dave Zavolinsky in Omaha. Like he put on an absolute show for us. He went all out. He cooked like every meal for us. He was smoking brisket and ribs, and he was feeding us. He had all the drinks
incredible.
ready, had all the TVs going.
He lives for these 2 days.
Oh, lives for it. And let me sleep. He kicked his son out of his own room, let me sleep in his son's room.
Well, that kid can sleep anywhere. These kids, because they're vertebrae, they like bend. Yeah, these kids are going to be fine.
It was so much fun. There's a shot of I walked upstairs one night, I think it was Saturday night, and I just see 30 pairs of shoes scattered across the floor. You only see that in the Midwest. You walk in there, immediately take your shoes off. That doesn't happen down here.
The older I get, starting to really piss me off when people wear shoes in my house.
Really?
Didn't bother me 5 years ago.
I've always, my dad does not take his shoes off.
Neither does my dad.
My
dad doesn't either.
It drives me nuts, especially like in the houses that we grew up in. There was carpet everywhere, and it's the middle of winter. He's got salt, sludge, snow all over his shoes.
He's probably stepped in a bathroom and there's piss all over him.
Oh, and it's just tracking it all over the goddamn house. And he still, like, he'll come down to Florida, and I'll tell him every time, you can take off your shoes. Your shoes are dirty as hell. Take them off when you come inside the house, and he won't do it. Walking all over the carpets, the rugs. Ugh.
Speaking of our dads, all right, you guys want some Iowa talk? We'll give you some Iowa talk. My dad, Matt, can you pull up his tweet from last night?
Wait, I'm being called out. I called Emily Ryan an assassin. Copley says that she invented that.
Yeah, Stephanie's been calling her that for like 4 years.
I'm sorry. That she just I didn't know that you had said that.
It's okay. It's an honor. It's an honor
on my feed or something, and it just crept into my yes. Sorry.
So my dad tweeted this last night at
the old dog rubbing his ass on the carpet.
Iowa men's basketball is over losing in the JV tournament. Good news for next year's Iowa fans: ticket prices should be lower next year. With the dog rubbing its ass on the carpet.
Your dad's go-to gif.
My dad was there on this weekend. He went on Saturday to the game. And my dad doesn't, and he's the best dad. You and me have both talked. Like, we're so blessed to have these guys. We give them a lot of shit, but my dad wears Cyclone Fanatic gear everywhere. He doesn't wear Iowa State gear. He wears Cyclone Fanatic stuff.
Really?
Because he's just a dad. Like, he's a proud dad. And
get him some Iowa Everywhere garb.
I will. We need to. And he will wear it, I promise. So he was wearing, like, his vintage Cyclone Fanatic hoodie from, like, the Paul Rhodes era. And then his hat, like, is autographed by like all the coaches. He gets autographs. They all sign it for him. And somebody came up to him and recognized him from Twitter. And they're like, "Oh my God, you're an icon on Twitter, man." And my dad's like ego was out of control the rest of the day.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm kind of a big deal. Matt,
Van Wink, you're muted.
I said it was Cyclone, Jim Carrey, and Mike Williams were the 2 celebrities at the Hilton.
Yeah. It should have been your dad dressing up as Ray Finkel next to him.
They did take a picture together. My dad and Cyclone Jim Carrey.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know what I'm sensing here is that this Jim Carrey guy, because I asked him, I was like, "Man, you're really leaning into this, aren't you? You're not even like this is all, you're all in." He's like, "Yeah, well, there's worse things." I'm sensing he's going to be like the Hawkeye Elvis guy going forward.
Oh, yeah.
He's just going to, there they are. That's my mom and dad and Cyclone Jim Carrey.
It's just going to be the go-to cutaway. Oh, your mom was there too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You never give your mom enough credit. All you ever talk about is how much she loves the Cox.
Right there, she's with Cyclone Jim. All she can think about is the Cox. It's all she's thinking about is she takes that photograph.
My dad says your dad needs to come up with something different, real old garbage. I think he's talking about the dog wiping his ass on the carpet.
We've got to get them to a game together, like and mic them up. Like in Van Winkle, if we did that, could you mic them up and like record their conversations?
Can we just get them? How about we start with like a game watch in your basement? Then we'll see how it goes at it at the arena.
Remember you Williams, when I came to call that Iowa State Texas game, you offered my dad a ticket to see the Iowa State Texas game to sit right next to your dad, and my dad said thanks, but no thanks. He says I don't want to go to that wind tunnel and sit next to that windbag, Mr. Williams.
All right. I want to get to Proctor.
Yeah. Circle Herc points out a good point. Quote, "We'll talk Iowa, don't worry." Shows dad's tweet of dog wiping ass. But here we go. We're kind of going to talk Iowa next with Kadyn Proctor.
Yeah. So I'm driving back from Omaha yesterday, and you're the one who tipped me off to this.
What, the Proctor stuff?
Yeah, like, so he's like trolling you think? On Twitter?
Trolling me? No.
Yeah, Iowa fans. Iowa fans. You're an Iowa fan.
I don't know. I mean, people are going nuts. Cyclone Larry says he's following him. Iowa State fans are saying he's following a bunch of Cyclone accounts and liking a bunch of Cyclone tweets. And you tend to think it's a shot at Iowa fans.
Well, I don't know.
What if it's a shot at Iowa State fans? What if he's trolling them?
He's
trying
not
to get
going
their
to
hopes
Iowa
up?
State.
Well,
like,
I think he's getting some. I think he's getting some fans' hopes up by doing this.
Well, he's not. Like, that turned into a thing. I had like 10 texts when I got home. Is Proctor coming on? No. He is friends with these guys. Like, Abu Sama was his teammate.
Mm-hmm.
Moberly was his teammate. Right there, that's Jamison Patton, who we played against at the CIML.
It is interesting that the football account and Coach Campbell follow him.
Well,
because usually they're recruiting a guy and they don't commit, they'll just unfollow him.
They recruited him when he left Alabama. Like, there were conversations. I don't think Iowa State ever thought that they could get him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know.
So what do you think is going on? Is he just you think he's just having fun?
Well, I mean, I did go through and like, listen, fans are fans. I'm not going to throw stones in the glass house here. But I was going through a bunch of his like tweets. Like, there's one of him on spring break, and like one Iowa fan wrote back like, "I hope you break your leg." Like, so like he's probably getting a lot of shit, I would guess, and rightfully so. Like, fans are pissed off about this.
True.
So would it shock you if a 19-year-old was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go have a little fun on Twitter with these people"?
No, it would not.
It wouldn't.
Honestly, nothing would shock me with him. I mean, decommitting from Iowa twice.
Again, though, I'll make the point. There is no team in the country who hates its fans more than Iowa. You got the coaches' kids calling out the fans in the crowds. You've got that McCabe kid who told you all to suck his penis.
But he's not a Hawkeye.
Not anymore. He was.
So you think Kaden Proctor was going to be a Hawkeye, and then he just hated Iowa fans so much that he decided to leave and then follow a bunch of Cyclone people to piss them off?
All I'm saying is if you go through my Twitter account on a daily basis and read tweets from you Iowa fans, all I'm saying is I wouldn't put it past the whole situation here. I'm just giving you guys shit. Everybody is just everybody calm down. I don't know that he's trolling Iowa fans, but it seemed weird. Like all this, why would you follow Cyclone Larry? Other than he's funny. And maybe Proctor hates Iowa so much now that he goes to the one account that hates. I'm saying he's 19, and you got thousands of people on Twitter telling you how much you suck and you're a bad human and like. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. But he's not going to Iowa State. I can tell he's going to Alabama. There are a lot of the stuff he was liking and stuff was like Alabama spring football and crap like that. I wish Proctor would just talk, but he's not going to. Clearly.
Why isn't he going to talk?
I don't know, but it would help the situation a lot.
Totally. I mean, and especially, you're doing stuff like this. You're kind of that's kind of a way of communicating and throwing stuff out there. Like, just talk to somebody. Like, tell us what happened. What's going on? Like, I think people would be a lot more understanding if he just spoke the truth.
Sober Hawk. Good for you. Congratulations. Says Pat McAfee compared it to finding out your fiance is cheating on you before the wedding.
What? Proctor leaving again?
Yeah. Saying it's better now than...
Well, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. Like, when the news came out that he was again decommitting and leaving and not going to play, I think the one thing that made it a little bit easier was the fact that he hasn't been out there on the field for Iowa. We haven't seen him. We haven't seen him go out there and just throw people around and open up big running holes and protect the quarterback. We haven't seen that. We don't know what it could have been like. We can guess, but we don't know. So yeah, I think it's look, he might have gotten some money from the big boosters, but not, it didn't seem like he made off with a bunch of money that fans donated. So whatever.
Shout out to our friends at DRF Sportsbook, presenting two guys named Chris today. DRF Sports. I love this app, by the way. I've been messing around with it. They have so many options. They have so many options of different things that you can bet on. The depth of it, and I love it. Download the DRF Sportsbook app today. The thing I love about them the most is the only state that they are active in is Iowa. So this is like our local sports book here. We're all they care about right now. And so any of you guys, if you want to help out our show, if you want to help out Iowa everywhere, so you can get all this free content, you got to support our advertisers. That's how it all works. If you download the DRF Sportsbook app today, we would appreciate it.
You know what's awesome? Woke up Thursday morning before the first game's tipped. Had a $10 free bet waiting for me from
there.
DRF.
You go.
And you know what I did? Turned that into $100.
Parlay?
No.
Just in general?
Just kept rolling on it.
Look at this guy.
Then I lost it all, but
It's funny that the folks over in Omaha, they have to drive over the river to Council Bluffs to make their bets.
The old John Miller, he does that all the time. He has to drive across, over to Kansas to
the Parlay Prince.
Oh, the Parlay Prince was on a heater this weekend.
He's been on a heater this weekend.
Whew. I think he cashed over $5,000.
Van Winkle is going to fill in for me on Miller and Williams this week, and I'm sure that they're going to talk a lot about this because Miller he's doing the bull dance, feeling the flow.
The what?
It right now.
The bowl dance.
You ever seen Happy Gilmore?
Is the bowl dance when you smoke a bowl and you dance? Is that what it is?
No, but Miller's like the compulsive gambler. They only send you a picture when they hit the jackpot at the casino.
Oh, yeah, sure.
They don't ever send you the losing tickets. Okay. I want to get to what does this mean for Drake now with Darren DeVries gone. I will say this: this Brian Harden's really elite. This athletic director at Drake, I think he's really sharp.
I agree.
There's no way this came at a surprise to him. There's none. Like, there's no chance. So I would guess Drake moves very quickly. I would guess that this thing is done in the next couple days. He had to have been planning on this in some capacity. I have heard that Ben McCollum from Northwest Missouri State is a very likely candidate. Won 4 national championships there. He is a Iowa native. And as you astutely pointed out, Chris Hassel on Twitter, he's 46 years old and has stayed at the same place for 15 years. So he's not necessarily a job hopper. And I kind of like that for Drake if you can find a guy
he's younger
like
than that, though, Williams. I think he's like in his low 40s.
I thought he was 46. Okay. You may be right.
Well, the old
Maddie can look that up.
Wikipedia, which is never wrong, says he's 42.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he got that job young.
Yeah. And listen, like, there's no way, being as successful as he has been there, that he hasn't had offers to leave.
Oh, yeah.
Along the way. So that's something.
I
again,
think it's a really inspired hire.
You like that? And you called his games before, right?
No, I haven't done any.
I thought you did the D2 national title game.
No, I was on the schedule to do it last year. That's probably a pretty good memory for you. I was on the schedule to do it. I have not done it, though.
Okay.
I like it because he's an Iowa guy. He's been at the top of his game for a long time. And he's been at the same place for a long time. Like, when you're Drake, you have to be honest with yourself. And I think Brian Harden is, and that's why he wasn't caught off guard, because he knew Darren DeVries is so successful. This guy can leave anytime. He's not going to stay here forever. When you get a guy like this, maybe this is a guy that is going to be happy staying there if he has success. And just in putting roots down and not using it like a Nico Medved, for instance. Like, you can't have a guy come in for 1 year and jump.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like this guy, at least it seems like there's a better chance that this guy would stick around, given how long he was in one spot at a lower level job at Northwest Missouri State, D2.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of ties to the Midwest. The Drake recruiting thing is just I did you listen to the show I did with Admire a few weeks ago? It's okay if you didn't.
I did not.
Like, I was telling him just how much respect I have for these mid-major fans now. Like, it's always been hard because you've always been literally the deck is stacked against you and you know it. And it's getting worse because all these greedy commissioners are trying to box you out even more. And it just makes me sick. But, like, that sucks for Drake fans. Like, I get it. I don't blame the DeVries family for doing this. We all kind of expected it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
That sucks, though. They put together this incredible run. They were down for so long. The Knapp Center has this great atmosphere now. Drake had an awesome turnout in Omaha. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the Drake-Iowa State game, which I would have thought would have been electric. And frankly, I'm really glad Iowa State didn't play Drake, because they would have hit a lot of shots when Iowa State started 3 of 16 that Washington State was missing. I promise you that.
Sure.
But it does suck, and if you can get a guy, like you're saying, who you feel like – because, 6 years is more than I thought they would get out of DeVries. Mm-hmm. What about you?
Especially with all the success they've had. One year he wins it. They win a first 4 game. I think that was, 21 or 22. I think it was 21. The conference championships. I think this was going to be kind of the end of an era for Drake anyway, losing some of these guys, not knowing what was going to happen with Tucker. I think some thought either, as you pointed out, maybe go somewhere else or test the NBA waters. It feels like a good time to do this. There's never a great time, but it was going to be different next season. For sure.
Yeah, again, I was just hearing over the weekend that, for Tucker's NBA purposes, it wasn't like, oh, he doesn't want to play. I think that if it were up to them, like he could have just finished. That's why I thought it felt a little bit natural that they move on now.
Mm-hmm.
If they were going to stay together. Because I don't know. These are Creighton people telling me this, but
How much do you guys think part of it was to the selection committee leaving out Indiana State? I mean, a team that really deserved to be in, on paper, but that's realistically, the Missouri Valley is a one-bid league. I think that probably had something to do with it. Just saying, like, man, you can have that good of a season and get left out.
I don't know that was a reason that he did it now, but that's certainly something that you can't ignore. And he has to know, like, I'm going to have a 3-game tournament run in the Missouri Valley. No matter what we do in the regular season, I'm going to have to win those 3 games to get into the NCAA tournament. And that's got to be hard to accept as a coach, because these teams are good enough to compete in the NCAA tournament. It's a shame we didn't get to see Indiana State. It sucks, it's only going to get worse. Like with realignment, a lot of these teams that do have success in these conferences end up leaving for the next better conference. I mean, look at all the Conference USA teams that jumped up to the American, and all the American teams that jumped up to the Big 12. It's only going to get worse for a team like Drake.
I'm about to say something that I know will not happen, but I hope that it does. What happened when these elite Premier League teams tried to form their Super League and we're going to squeeze everybody? The fans went crazy. Mm-hmm. The fans lost their minds. They said, don't fuck with this. We love this. We love our relegation. We love everything that's involved. This has been this amazing thing. Don't screw with it. College athletics fans will not do that. They have to, though. It's the only way we save this, guys. It can't be, my team's pulling in $60 million in television revenue.
Yeah, I've never really understood why fans care about that.
They shouldn't.
Why do I care?
They're not making your parking cheaper.
No.
Is a beer at Kinnick Stadium cheaper than it was before the latest television contract?
The only thing that it does is it allows you to attract better coaches.
Yeah.
Because you can pay them more.
That's so true. And I get all that. But I guess I'm talking like with the tournament here. Mm-hmm. Like this is like an American institution, the NCAA tournament. Where are the high major fans sticking up for the little guy here? Like we all love the tournament because of the little guy, right? Yep. Now, I would make the argument you get to the second weekend and it's like, okay, that was cute. We want 1 or 2 of them around, but we want the better teams. The first 2 days of the tournament are about the little guy.
Yeah. It's all about Oakland,
Yeah.
The guy with the huge jaw just draining 15 threes.
Iowa State's up on South Dakota State in the second half. It's right before they're starting to pull away. They had the Oakland-Kentucky game on the big screen at the arena during plays. So, like, Iowa State's running like a set offense, and the crowd isn't even watching the game. They're reacting to Oakland. We, as fans, have to stand up to, like, you cannot let this power be this greedy to screw up our tournament.
And they'll try to say, well, that if we expand the tournament, then maybe Indiana State gets in. Well, you're not expanding the tournament to put more mid-major teams in.
You're getting Kansas State and Iowa.
Yeah, you're getting more of the Virginias in there.
And I agree with Caleb is an idiot. College fans are not united. It will never happen. You're right, and this is the problem with college athletics because everybody's too greedy. It's all about, I need to make sure, like what Colorado did going to the Big 12. They didn't really want to, but they saw the writing on the wall. Mm-hmm. Oregon and those schools were never staying there, so they got the hell out of there before the ship left the dock. Mm-hmm. And that's what everybody does, and that's what these leagues are doing now. Like Brett Yormark, when he says he wants to expand the tournament, He's not saying that because he's like, well, we really mean that Indiana State getting left out was a travesty. No. He's trying to get Kansas State in so the Big 12 can make more money. That's all it's about. And the fans have to stand up to it, and they won't. And that's why I have no faith that this is going to get done the right way, because everybody's too greedy. It's all about money.
Just have to enjoy it while it's happening. It was a really fun weekend, and looking ahead, you got Iowa with a chance to go to the Sweet 16 tonight, the Iowa women. You've got the Iowa State men playing on Thursday night to go to their, first Elite Eight in over 20 years, almost 25 years, correct? Is that the last time they were in the Elite Eight was
yes,
the Michigan State game in 2000? So, I mean, It's going to be fun. You said it. Like, these first couple rounds, give me some upsets. Sweet 16, Elite Eight, give me the great matchups, and we've got it. Like, the matchups are going to be awesome on Thursday and Friday this week in the men's tournament.
All right. Appreciate you guys. And we will figure out, probably do Thursday's show normal.
Yeah,
we
can talk about it later, but because Iowa State plays Thursday night, so I didn't know if you would rather do Friday morning reaction, but I know you'll have the Cyclone Fanatic reaction too.
I'm gonna be working until like 3 a.m.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll let you guys know when the next show's coming. We have all of our other shows coming up here on Iowa Everywhere as well. For Maddie Van Winkle, for Chris Hassel, I'm Chris Williams. Thanks to our friends at Fareway Meat and Grocery for sponsoring the show. Also, our buddies over at Channel Seed as well. We'll be back later this week.